So make sure you are indoors and in your safe place. If you haven't gotten there yet, you should be immediately getting to that place. And we'll bring back in meteorologist Mike Haddad now with a little bit more. Mike.
Yeah, definitely a well-defined couplet there, Jackie, no doubt about that. We've been talking about the wind flowing around that thunderstorm in a motion that is well-defined right now in a circular fashion. So we've already seen some video in and around Dublin of a funnel cloud. Whether or not it touched the ground is tough to call, but that just confirms what we're seeing on radar. And this storm still packing a punch. So keep in mind we're at 5:40 now, and the tornado warning goes up until 6 o'clock. The big question is exactly how intense is this particular storm. Now, if you're traveling in New Boston, just looking at, say, Route 77, Route 13, also Route 136, this is where you're seeing the torrential rain, tons of lightning, and just on the back edge is where the well-defined couplet is, showing the potential circulation. So typically, what you're going to find is the torrential rain and hail, and then just in our neck of the woods, just to the west-southwest, is where the rotation could be. Now, is it completely rain-wrapped? Well, based on that video in Dublin, the answer is no. So we can see that there's a lot of torrential heavy rain, and then just on the backside of all of that is where the tornado is likely forming. Again, motion in the red color indicates motion towards or away from the radar site. Again, keep in mind we're looking at a radar scan from around Taunton and Norton in Massachusetts, and the green indicates motion away. So I'm going to show you another tool that we have here to kind of indicate the wind speed, because you might be wondering, well, that's all fine and dandy. Motion's going this way and that way, but how is the wind actually shaping up in terms of the potential for speed? Well, right around New Boston, this is a wind, keep in mind this is looking up into the cloud of 49 miles per hour away from the radar site, and then motion on the backside of this is coming in generally at about 10 to 12 miles per hour. It's just enough for a strong enough signature for rotation and a tornado, but 50 miles per hour up in the cloud, that only counts for part of the total wind if it reaches the ground. As it comes down towards the ground, it accelerates, and the wind is likely well over that, possibly 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. Not out of the question. Tough to nail down exactly how intense the wind is right near the ground level, but it just also gives you an idea, again, of what the potential is there for the wind, not only speed, but the wind direction. So we'll put a tracker back on this. Again, keep in mind, we're not tracking the leading edge of the rain because that's already approaching places, or it's in Goffstown and approaching the Queen City, but it's the center of where the tornado is likely hitting right now. And that motion to the east-northeast at 40 miles per hour brings it in these areas. 5:54, 12 minutes from now, holding together Pinardville, Manchester, just around 6 o'clock. And the warning goes until 6 o'clock. For sure, the severe thunderstorm warning alone will be extended and pushed off into the lower part of the Merrimack Valley from Hooksett, Manchester, and Point South. But we may see the tornado warning extended to the east as well. And if that does happen, those around Auburn at 6:06, Chester just down the road at 6:13 or so, Raymond at 6:19, and even Kingston, Exeter, we're going to be watching it very closely in the next, say, 15, 20, 25 minutes to see if this holds together. So as the storm continues to move, we're going to move our radar around because we have to follow this, of course, as it moves in, and our former scans are no longer going to help us because the thing's trucking at about 40 miles per hour. But there is a well-defined couplet in here right now. Again, motion towards the radar at about 18 miles per hour. Motion just to the east of downtown New Boston coming in at 45 to 50 miles per hour. Certainly enough to warrant this tornado warning as it moves right towards Bedford right now and Goffstown. We could zoom in and show you those in and around New Boston. Bedford, just to the east, Pinardville, Goffstown. Again, just to the north, this would hit of downtown Bedford. Keep in mind, Bedford again, just to the south. You've got Goffstown to the north, and this is going to ride right towards Route 114, just as you travel from Bedford right up into Goffstown. So you don't want to be on the road. Anybody who's watching this right now in the southern part of the state, in the tornado warning, or even if you just have a severe thunderstorm warning, like is occurring in some other spots, you want to seek shelter, and basically you get low and inside. I mentioned it many times in the last half hour to an hour. Try to put as many walls as possible between where you are and the outside. So you get down to the basement, in the interior part of the basement, not where you have some open windows to kind of peek out there. You don't want to do any of that because debris can fly away from this tornado for miles and miles. And that debris, of course, can do tremendous amounts of damage. So certainly you want to make sure that you are talking about staying safe indoors, away from windows. If you don't have a basement, where do you go? The lowest interior room of your home, preferably like a closet or an interior bathroom that doesn't have windows to the outside. Again, just put as many walls between you and what you can imagine being the outside. We're going to put one more storm tracker on this, and then we're going to send it over to Ariel and Troy, who will speak to someone regarding potential damage or what's happening out there right now. Again, this storm tracking off to the east, northeast at roughly 40 miles per hour. So if you're in the area around Manchester and Pinardville, Goffstown, Bedford, all in the next 10 to 15 minutes, even though Manchester, you're not technically in the severe thunderstorm or the tornado warning, you are in the severe thunderstorm warning. So whether it's straight line winds or rotating, definitely seek shelter. Try to get low and inside. We'll take a little bit of a break analyzing the storm for now. We'll get the tracker back on for you and talk more about the other storms. We'll bring in right now Ariel and Troy to talk more about this severe weather situation.
Mike, thank you. We do want to bring in Dan McDonald. He is the New Boston Emergency Management Director. We have him on the phone now. Mike mentioned New Boston is one of the affected communities right now. Dan, we hope you're safe and inside, but is there anything that you've heard reported in New Boston at this point?
Okay, so I can tell you that everything was pretty fine until about 5:30, and then the sky opened up, the wind came up. It was probably 30 miles an hour, gusting to 40, 50. Lightning was just numerous lightning strikes all around the town. So far, we haven't had any reports of houses or any damage to the houses. But the interesting thing is that, and actually Hillsborough, we got the weather report that, the center of the threat for the tornado was Hillsborough County. That's at 5:30.
And Dan, how scary of a moment is this for New Boston?
At 5:42, the sun came out, the rain has stopped, everything moved away. I did take a picture of a cloud, a collection of clouds that were gathering, and looked a little bit twirly, but they weren't forming anything serious at this time. But that was moving to the northeast.
All right, Dan, thank you so much. We really appreciate that time. We're going to send things back to Chief Meteorologist Mike Haddad just for more updates on this severe weather.
All right, thanks a lot, Troy. Basically, what we're watching in Ariel, that this storm has about another 13 minutes to go until the warning expires. And it's definitely tracking on the northern part of what we call the warning cone. So if you're in Manchester and you're in the southern part of the city, down towards, say, the airport, down towards Brown Avenue, down towards the southern part of even some of the major roads, like around the mall. You take a look at this part of the city, you're likely not going to see rotation. It's the center or northern part of Manchester in towards Hooksett is where the center of circulation is working, and that's where the core of the very heavy rain is right now. Right around Goffstown, again, the northern part of Manchester. Again, if you're on the northern half of, say, Elm Street, and that part of Manchester up towards South Hooksett, you're into Hooksett itself. This is where heavy rain, frequent lightning, and a potential for this tornado to move through. So how do we know it's potentially a tornado? We've been talking about this for quite some time. For those kind of just tuning in, we look at Doppler radar for a couple of different reasons. One, to get an indication of how strong the rain is, how intense it is. Another is how strong the winds are. And there's my alert on my phone, which I'm going to say, pardon me for a moment. Throw this over here so you're not disturbed anymore. This is just the indication of the tornado warning being extended now right over our neck of the woods. So you hear the sirens going off. If you're in Manchester, You're in Auburn, you're hearing the same thing on your phone because a tornado warning has been now extended to include the Queen City. It's disturbing, but if you know what's going on and you know how to stay safe, it should not be a problem. So this is why we're here to kind of walk you through what to do in this particular scenario. The radar, again, I'm bouncing it all around. I'm going to stop it to show you what we're tracking. The green indicates motion towards the radar site. The red indicates motion away. So if we're trying to watch where this tornado is right now, it would be just to the west of, say, just to the south of downtown Goffstown. And again, the trajectory on this warning, so those now in the Queen City, those in Auburn, I'm just going to zoom in a few different spots on the cone to indicate where you have a tornado warning. Doesn't mean you're going to see it because it's not going to hit everywhere in this cone. Candia, the southern part, Auburn as well, Manchester, specifically the central and the northern part of the city. So say you're around South Willow Street and right along where 293 is zipping through. To the north of that line is where the tornado is likely tracking. If you're south of that area, down towards the airport, the southern part of the city, down towards Brown Ave, you don't have to worry about the tornado itself, but heavy rain, gusty winds, lightning, and hail all on the table. So that's the storm. We're going to put a tracker on that because that's, of course, what we're all about here, trying to get the best information to you on how to ride this storm out safely. Again, if you have a basement, I would head towards it. If you're in central part of the Queen City, we don't have a basement here in the studio. We're just going to ride this out. Hopefully the sturdy walls will do their trick, but you want to basically put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Here's our timeline based on the current motion of this rotating thunderstorm tornado, likely on the ground. Definitely can see that wall cloud back in Goffstown. I know our crew did a great job of having that up there, and I was ignoring it. Potential damage here. And again, these flickering lights are indicating that the storm and the lightning is hitting our particular area right now. Well-defined wall cloud out there, maybe even some signs of some rotation. In the storm track, again, I have to kind of look at my screen here to show you the timeline. Basically, between now and 6 o'clock, about another 8, 9, 10 minutes, this is where you're likely going to see the tornado moving through the central and northern part of the Queen City. If it holds together around Auburn, Candia, Raymond, all spots in the next 15, 20 minutes. It looks like out of that wall cloud, the descending part of that severe thunderstorm. So right in here, again, my hand is not going to cover the box, but you get the idea. Somewhere just there, you see it trying to descend. It looks like there is some funnel definitely coming down out of that wall cloud. The wall cloud is basically the lowering part of the severe thunderstorm, which contains tons of rain, tons of lightning, and enough rotation for a tornado warning. So that's what we have right now. The tornado warning, again, extended now till 6:15, including the local Manchester area, as this system is moving right over the Goffstown area now and approaching the Queen City. We'll bring back in meteorologist Jacqueline Thomas to talk a little bit more about this. Very odd to get one hitting such a highly populated area, but this is go time right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a rare situation. Just the day as a whole, as we've been talking about with the tornado watch in place, but also that heightened risk for tornadic activity here in New Hampshire throughout the afternoon and evening hours. And yes, we are hearing thunder outside of our studio here in the Queen City. And you can see that rotation now just west of Manchester between Goffstown and Bedford, that bright red and that dark green that you see very close together. This area here that I'm trying to highlight with this purple arrow, this is the area of rotation that we've been monitoring very closely, and this is why we have a tornado warning in effect. If you are in Manchester, if you are in South Hooksett, you need to be inside in a basement or the lowest level of your home, an interior room. It may be a bathroom, it may be a closet, but you need to be in your safe space now. That is what the warning means. A tornado is either imminent or already happening, and you can see that rotation very clearly here. And for rotation like this to come through such a populated area, it is a very dangerous situation. So you need to be indoors. You need to make sure that if you know anyone in Manchester, in South Hooksett, that you are contacting them and that they get the message to be indoors and safe from this storm. Still hearing thunder outside of our studio now, and I'm trying to see exactly what's showing up on the screen here. This is a look, it looks like from Hillsborough, and we were able to see a little bit of that wall cloud that Mike was mentioning when we were looking towards Goffstown, and I can't quite make it out from where I'm standing here. Goffstown, there we have it. You can see very dark and clear this storm coming through, but that rotation is what we've been watching, and I'll point that out for you again, exactly where the strongest part of that rotation is. Pinardville, just the western part of Manchester, that is where this is headed. You're immediately going to be underneath the rotation within this storm. So again, inside, you need to be there. South Hooksett, you need to be there. Manchester, anywhere in the city, just play it safe, get indoors, lowest interior part of your home or building. And this is tracking eastward, and it's continuing to push its way towards Auburn and areas just north of the area. You need to make sure you are in your safe space. That is why this warning has been extended now, this tornado warning going until 6:15 p.m. The warning itself extending all the way out towards Candia, Deerfield, just outside of the tornado warning itself, but Chester included in that, Auburn, Raymond. Anywhere within this area, you need to make sure that you are staying safe. So if we zoom back in here, I'll bring back the reflectivity, which is showing the radar and showing where the storm itself is. You can really make out the heaviest rain in this, and where that potential tornado would be located would be right in this area here, again pushing right towards Manchester. Something that we've been tracking too with this is the change in winds, either in direction or in speed. It's a change in wind, and it's something called shear, and there's been a very clear shear track with this storm. And we can see that here. I'll bring that up. And you need shear, 15 to 20 knots or 17, 23 miles per hour or more. That is really strong shear and definitely can help produce tornadoes. And some of these values that we've seen out there today, shear over 30 miles per hour right at the surface in the lowest level. And that is very indicative of the rotation that we've been seeing, and clearly the track of that shear and the environment being able to produce that rotation and that tornado. Some questions you might be asking yourself, what if I'm in an apartment and I'm on a top floor? Get down to a lower floor. Doesn't matter if it's not your floor, just get there. The lowest floor, or if you have a basement, maybe there's a laundry room in your apartment complex or in whatever building you're in. Maybe there's laundry in the lowest level or in the basement. If you are able to access it, you just want to get down as low as you can and get inside. So you want to stay away from windows, away from exterior walls. You want as much space and wall between you and the outside as possible. That is the safest place for you to be. It may be a bathroom, it may be a closet, it may be a laundry room. Wherever you can be, you want to get down and in. Those are the two key points as far as being able to stay safe. And I can't quite make out exactly the video from where I'm standing here. Mike, I'll bring you back in. I'm not sure if you have a better view from where you're standing, but it looks like from Goffstown we can clearly see the wall cloud there. It looks like that little bit of a dip, that little bit of lowering, that's what you watch, and that is where potentially there could be some rotation there in that storm. And if you want to go ahead and maybe dive in a little bit more, I'll try to get a closer look here.
Yeah, no, that looks exactly right, Jackie. Typically at the leading edge of a thunderstorm, so the thunderstorm itself, say over in here, you would see a kind of a perimeter to the cloud deck, and that would be what we call a shelf cloud. However, underneath where the torrential rain has fallen, in just to the west of that, you have a lowering of the cloud base. And again, because I can't go above the box here, just all this darkness is typically going to be the lowering of that severe, possibly rotating thunderstorm. Why are we seeing a tornado today? The ingredients are all there. There's a lot of juice in the atmosphere. It heated up quickly late this morning and early afternoon. There's a lot of wind shear, and right now over the Manchester area, the concern is for damaging winds that possibly could be due to a tornado. A clear couplet right now with the motion in red here, right over the Queen City now. Elm Street points east all the way to Route 93, right around Wellington Road, pressing over towards Route 101, all the way back in towards Pinardville. This is where the center of circulation is, between this motion in red moving to the north, in this motion over Pinardville going to the south. In smack dab in the middle is where we would project that tornado to be. So again, let's show you again what we're talking about. The motion in red away from the radar site, the motion down towards the Taunton radar site coming in this area. So right in here, this is where the tornado would be spinning. Again, it's tracking at a pretty good clip off to the east-northeast at about 40 miles per hour. So that's a look at the tornado warning. Again, back out and show you the things that really matter right now, which is a track on this storm. And there's just so much rain with it and a potential for hail along with frequent lightning. So let's track it again. Again, we're going to go back to the velocities because the rain itself, you know you're in the rain, you know that you're in the lightning. But what about the potential tornado itself? We'll zoom back out and show you right over the western part of the Queen City now, moving off to the east-northeast at about 38 to 40 miles per hour. Again, Manchester in it now. Auburn, if it holds together, in about another, say, 10, 12 minutes, we're coming right up at the top of the hour. Here we are at 6 o'clock. You are watching News 9 at 6 on a Sunday evening, where we have a tornado warning currently up for a highly populated area in the state. Manchester, Auburn, Chester, Raymond, all in on this tornado warning. Now, keep in mind, I'm mentioning Raymond, but technically you're out of the warning area because the warning runs up until 6:15 and will be on until the warning either expires or the warning is extended, and in that case, will continually stay on the air. But right now, right over the heart of the Queen City, right over where Route 93, Route 101 is, and this is just due to a well-defined, very intense, what we call supercell thunderstorm. Supercell thunderstorms have the tendency to not only rise up to 10, 20, 30, even 40,000 plus feet in the atmosphere. Severe one would be up over 35 to 40,000. But as it is, the air's rising, the air starts to spin. And that's due to a lot of wind shear, change of wind direction with height as you go up in the atmosphere, and therefore the rotation begins. And this is where the center of circulation or the tornado could be. This is our live camera right now showing the wall cloud over the Queen City. I'm trying to figure out if we zoom a little bit more to the right there or to the north, if we might get a better idea of the lowering of that cloud deck. It's kind of hard to determine whether or not it goes even lower than that. But in any case, keep in mind in downtown Manchester, we are just in our studios here, just to the north of the ball field where the Fisher Cats play, Northeast Delta Dental. Just to the north is where any rotation would likely be. So that's where we're seeing the wall cloud right now, and this is where you have to definitely be seeking shelter. Again, the red indicating motion away from the radar, green towards the radar. The signature still holding together. I would say the green not as intense as it was a short time ago, but it's still defined as difference in wind direction in a close area. So the signature and the couplet still exists. But again, that may be a sign of slight weakening. I'm going to bring in the gray radar site here, and you can also tell there's quite a bit of motion there as well. That darker blue indicates motion racing towards the radar site. So right in here, in this later shade of gray indicates a motion coming in this direction. So that's why the rotation, again, right over Manchester. Again, definitely in this image right now in the Queen City, we are getting a lowering of that cloud deck. That is a wall cloud indicating the potential, if you're going to see it, tornado, if you're going to see a funnel, it's coming right out of there. There's no question. It's kind of a textbook lowering of that cloud deck. And if you look closely enough, a little bit near the left part of the box, there's some subtle signs of little funnel trying to work down out of that particular lowering of the wall cloud. What is a wall cloud? Basically, again, it's the lowering of that severe intense thunderstorm where rotation is happening. And again, tornado warning in effect until 6:15. There are definite signs there, hints that there's some funnel trying to work in out of that particular wall cloud. And right now we have that centered right over downtown Manchester, about to cross right over the corridor of Route 101 and Route 93. So if you live over on the east side of the city, you're over in Wellington Road, you are in a lot of the developments out on the east side of the city. Just thousands of people live in this area. Definitely seek shelter as this system moves on through. So again, places like Route 101 and right through Wellington Road, pressing over towards 93 at the 101 junction, that's where we have the potential rotation moving right over Lake Massabesic in just a short time as well. So do not attempt to go outside. Don't try to film this thing. We have a camera on the roof. There's no one out there, on the roof shooting out at this thing, because two things can happen. A, damaging winds could hit you. B, there's lightning in this storm. So again, you want to make sure that you are indoors, away from windows, preferably in the lowest interior room of your home. And here it is, another look at this storm. This is reflectivity, indicating how intense the rain is with this particular cell. So again, central and eastern part of the Queen City, right over towards Auburn. This is where the tornado, if it is hitting the ground, would be happening. Why do we say could? Because this is Doppler radar indicated, unless we get some other video. I don't know, Jackie, if you've had any word on it. That shot that we just had a tremendous lowering of the base. I'm not sure exactly what happened to that, if it was a glitch in trying to get the picture outside. But there's definitely a potential that we've had some sort of funnel getting close to or reaching the ground. Jackie?
Yeah, I haven't been able to really confirm or see anything. I'm looking right now actively at the chat with the National Weather Service to determine if there's been anything reported or shown. And it's what we've been looking at, that little bit of a wall cloud that's been lowering. And there's been a couple of pictures that have been coming through, but nothing that clearly shows, anyway, a tornado on the ground. And it's so hard when you live in a populated area like this, right, versus areas out in the Midwest where it's so flat and you can really see. Here you've got buildings, you've got trees, you've got things sort of blocking your view, so it makes it much harder to really determine unless you just happen to have a very clear shot of what's going on. And we're keeping a close eye on this storm from the camera in Manchester. And what I'm showing you here with this radar scan is actually a radar product called correlation coefficient, something that determines the shape and the size of the particles and what's coming out of the air and what the radar beam is actually hitting. And this is showing that we have some hail in place. You can see some of those brighter yellows up north of Auburn. In this area, there's been a lot of hail located within this storm too. So not only are we talking about the threat of potential tornado with this storm and the rotating updraft potentially that we've been looking at here with that rotation in the radar, but also just the potential for the hail with this storm too, also creating the dangerous potential here for why this storm is a reason to be inside. And as I mentioned earlier, shear is something that we look at, that change in wind direction and or speed over a certain height or distance. That vertical shear especially is something that's really important when it comes to being favorable for a tornado to form. And you can see that very clear track of where we've had some of that wind shear locally here. I'll bring back the radar scan here to show you where the storm is located. Again, it was pushing through Manchester, South Hooksett, the heaviest rain now pushing just north of South Hooksett, between Hooksett and Candia. But I'll bring back that velocity scan that we were showing you, trying to show you where that rotation may be occurring. And it's further on the south side of this storm, the south side of this cell, that we're seeing that rotational signature just over Auburn right now. So if you are in Auburn, if you are between Candia or Chester, you need to be indoors, a lower interior part of your home or whatever building you are in. If you are located in a higher level of a home or apartment building, just get down to ground level or basement. Basement is best, but just get as low as you can. That is key for really finding the safest place here. So zooming in, this is really what we've been looking at. I mean, it's pretty clear to show the rotation happening within this storm as you see the movement away and the movement back towards the radar. So right now that is centered over Auburn. It is continuing to move its way eastward. And if I zoom back out a little bit, I'll be able to put a tracker on this for you. This is now showing the gray radar. I'll put Boston's radar back on because it's showing a little bit of a clearer scan there. So I'll go ahead and put a tracker on this so you can see where this is headed. It is moving eastward, and so Auburn, Raymond, eventually, you're going to be in the path of the storm. Epping, Fremont, eventually as well. Slightly northeast of there, even as you head towards Nottingham or Deerfield, you'll be within the track of this storm in such that you need to make sure you're paying attention and that you're able to get to a safe space as the storm heads your way. So if you are in Auburn, between Auburn, Raymond, Candia, Chester, you need to be indoors right now. If you know people in this area, make sure that they are indoors right now. This is continuing to move east. Epping, Nottingham, Deerfield, Fremont, Brentwood, all in the path of this, not currently in the tornado warning. Raymond just outside. The warning itself is in this red box here that you're seeing on your screen. If I click on it, it'll highlight pretty clearly, and that goes until 6:15, so we have another 5 minutes left of this tornado warning. But if this rotation still is pretty much what we're looking at here, if it maintains this strength or if it gets any stronger, for sure, then this warning could then be extended or a new tornado warning may be issued. So we're staying with you as long as there is the threat for a tornado here. We will be staying with you and making sure that you are staying safe. So between Candia and Chester right now, that is where the storm is, the rotation within this storm, the core of this storm is located, and this is continuing to push its way east. We had been tracking some other storms in the state, but as you can see now, there isn't any other present warnings in New Hampshire. It really is just this tornado warning that we are focusing on, while there are other storms happening in northern parts of the state. The tornado warned cell that we've been tracking for you is really that point of highest concern at this point. So that is what we are keeping a very close eye on there. Manchester, that webcam shot really clearly showing just how nasty the sky looks. And earlier you could see a little bit more of that wall cloud, that lowering that you need in order for a tornado to form, and the tornado or a funnel would come right out of that part of the storm. It's a little tough to make out here. I can't quite make it out from where I'm standing, what I'm looking at here, but it's also become a little bit more rain wrapped as the storm moves away from where our camera's looking. You don't get quite as clear of a view in some areas as well. Again, don't try to get out and get a photo or pictures of this. You want to be inside in your safe place right now. I'll go ahead and pause this again so you can see where this is currently located. And right now the heaviest part of the rain is pushing into Candia, so Candia getting poured on at this moment, but that rotation that we've been tracking is still mainly on the southern part of this cell, now pushing out of Auburn, pushing towards Raymond. Again, Raymond, you are in the area where this rotation is tracking. So Lane Road, and as you head just south of 101 here, that is where this rotation is. So between Auburn and Raymond, if you're on the southern part of 101, that is where the rotation is tracking. But even if you're on the north side of 101 up towards Candia, you need to still be in your safe place and still be taking shelter just with the hail that we're seeing from this, and also damaging winds regardless of the rotation. Even straight line winds can produce very, very strong damage, and that's all a potential with any of these severe storms that we've been seeing here today. So I'll send things back over to Mike now with a little bit more and what we're tracking for you. Mike?
Yeah, very impressive, Jackie, that this storm is holding together in terms of that circulation, the motion in the storm rotating as such. We've had a couple of reports of people capturing some funnels, but not necessarily touching the ground. That may change as more reports come in right around the northern and central part of the Queen City. Right now, the tornado, if it has reached the ground, just clearing Lake Massabesic in the last 5 minutes. And the tornado warning continues now farther to the east for about another minute. But also keep in mind that a new warning with a tag of tornado possible is been issued until 7:15. You'll have to be patient with us because we're going to continually be on the air while this storm has the potential to produce a tornado, possibly until another hour from now. So this is what we're tracking. Torrential rain, potential for some hail, a lot of lightning in and around Raymond, Candia, up to Nottingham. But for those tracking the potential for tornadic development, it is clearly marked by what we call a couplet. It's in a small area, the motion moving in one direction, and very close by, the motion moving in another direction. You just saw the red box here. Manchester and right over Lake Massabesic go away because it's 6:15 and the tornado warning has expired. But that same storm is not over, and it's still packing a punch with a general circulation marked by some pretty strong winds right here. I'm going to try to get an estimate on these winds in this brighter red, that pinkish. That's 55, 56 miles per hour. That's all moving away from the radar site and crossing right around Route 101 into Raymond. Again, hopefully you're not on the road. Don't even attempt to get on the road until the storm has cleared your particular area. And then there's motion towards the radar, 15 to 20 miles per hour. That's enough to indicate that there's enough of the circulation to say the tornado is possible. So we'll put a tracker on it. Again, just clearing Massabesic in the last few minutes. Off to the east-northeast at about 35 to 40 miles per hour. These are your locations and potential impacts if the storm does hold together. So those in Raymond, another 15 to 20 minutes. The core of the rotation would be over your neck of the woods. Doesn't mean that's when the storm approaches because well in advance of that, that's where you're getting in on the very heavy rain and the frequent lightning. Epping around 6:30, Newfield 6:40, Durham 6:44, even places like Newington and Portsmouth, all within the hour if the storm holds together. Again, the motion has been as close to west to east as possible. Every so often, imagine a rotating storm, it's going to wobble a little bit. Could jog a little bit north of due east and then shift back down to the south a few miles and then still kind of hold, though, in this trajectory off to the east and the northeast. Again, just scanning quickly for other particular storms. And right now there are numerous downpours and thunderstorms, non-severe right now, through the entire Great North Woods and down towards Plymouth, entering the Upper Valley. There's been a history of some rotation in eastern New York with the second line of storms, so can't rule out one or two more warnings popping up out of that particular cluster. However, the only warning that we currently have up is for this severe thunderstorm right now over Raymond, Nottingham, and pressing due east right along Route 101. And again, not a whole lot happening a little bit farther to the north. So let's go back on and show you the scan. Again, a well-defined couplet on this storm indicating the potential for a tornado. Again, this is not a tornado warning right now, but it's a severe thunderstorm warning with a potential for enough rotation that it may end up reaching the ground. So the storm tracker, again, off to the east-northeast, roughly about 35 to 40 miles per hour. Brings it in Epping within about 25 to 30 minutes. You're looking at some video in the Queen City. It's tough to make out exactly where the motion is on that, but we definitely had a lowering of the cloud base moving through when the storm work through the Queen City in the last 20 to 30 minutes. And there were some viewers that have sent in some emails that there's been some rotation. They've seen some funnel clouds. We're going to have to, of course, check on that, verify it all to make sure. But whenever you see a well-defined signature on radar based on the motion, well, that also indicates that there's a good chance that that could be reaching the ground. I love how the color code just totally changed on me there, but that's okay. We are tracking the storm. Let's go back to the what we call the reflectivity, and that indicates the intensity of the rain. It is coming down. Places like Raymond, Nottingham, put a hail track on that and see a little bit right around Candia in the last 15, 20 minutes. That hail size possibly up to maybe a nickel size. Large hail has not been a primary concern in the last hour or two with this storm. It's been really all about the torrential rain, the frequent lightning, and the potential for damaging winds, either straight-lined or rotating, as we can see from this storm. So that's the storm itself. Right now, again, moving off to the east-northeast, those in Portsmouth, all the way back to Epping. Again, Raymond, right now, you're in on it. Any spot in between, right along Route 101 towards the coastline, seek shelter as this storm comes on through. We're looking at some video coming in from Goffstown. Again, best bet during these type of times would be to be in your home, secure spot. If the storm has a tornado, or even if it doesn't, you want to seek shelter inside, lowest interior room of your home. Some may be wondering, well, they live in an apartment building. We just talked about it. You want to try to get low. Hopefully you have some friendly neighbors down in the lower floors. You want to get low inside. Try to stay away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as you possibly can as this storm comes through. Again, this is not a full-fledged EF3 or 4 tornado with winds like you see out west of, 150 to 200 miles per hour. This is a severe thunderstorm that potentially has some winds of over 60 miles per hour, either straight-lined or rotating. In the core of it right now, moving just to the east of downtown Raymond. This storm, again, has had the history of producing some small hail, a lot of lightning, torrential rain, major ponding on the roads. And if you're in places like, say, Epping and Nottingham and Raymond, you don't need me to tell you what to do because the storm is right over your neck of the woods. But if you're in places like Newmarket, Newfields, Stratham, Greenland, over towards Newington, right over Great Bay, it's moving right over you. Again, not a well-defined circulation for a tornado warning. The signature is there, that change of wind direction in a short period of miles, but just the rain, just the lightning, and the potential straight-line winds can do enough damage. So I'm going to back out here, show you the warning. Sorry to be bouncing around a little bit on you here as we try to navigate this cell. Here we go. We're back to the colors that make more sense to me. We've got the red. Again, this is well-defined motion moving away from the radar site, but the motion coming down towards the radar is not as bright as it was a little while ago. That's why this is, again, not a full-fledged tornado warning, but it's a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible. Tornadoes in severe thunderstorms kind of intensify and then weaken. They fluctuate in terms of their intensity several times during the lifetime. So just because there's not a well-defined motion towards the radar, it's there, but it's subtle, doesn't mean it can't intensify in the next 5, 10, 15 minutes as it travels right along Route 101. Again, if you're in places like Raymond, you're hitting it, you're seeing it now. Epping, you're just about there. It's going to cross right over the junction of Route 125 and 101, right at exit 7. You got so much happening there, just so much buildup. So hopefully you're seeking shelter as the storm comes on through, and then jogging over towards places like Exeter and Newfields and Stratham in the next 15, 20 minutes. Again, this is not a tornado warning. It's a severe thunderstorm warning with the potential that enough rotation may at times come down to the ground to spawn a tornado. But again, the greater threat right now is for frequent lightning, torrential rain, some hail, and again, a possibility of some damaging winds. And this core moving at a good clip. I would say after about 7 o'clock this evening, it's gone from New Hampshire. So then we'll turn our attention to some other showers and downpours and storms coming in from New York in Vermont in time. We're going to bring back in meteorologist Jacqueline Thomas, talk a little bit more about this storm and whatever else is happening moving in from the west. Jackie?
Right. We've been tracking this one particular storm for a while now, as it's been tracking its way across southern New Hampshire. Started off in Cheshire County, pushing all the way eastward, now approaching the seacoast. Dover getting in on some showers on the leading edge of this storm. Durham also getting in on some of the rain now. Newfield, you're just outside of some of the heavier rain with this storm, and Exeter, you are just south, but you are all within the severe thunderstorm warning. And again, there is that tornado possible tag on this warning, which means that there is still rotation trying to happen within this thunderstorm. So if we zoom out a little bit, we'll go ahead and move this over, and then that way I can draw this track for you. It's moving along pretty quickly here. So if you're anywhere near the seacoast, Durham, you're going to be under the center of this within these next 10 minutes or so. Portsmouth, this will be over you by about 6:45, and then this will be moving offshore. So that is one good thing, is that now it is approaching the water, and eventually will move offshore and no longer be a threat. But for right now, it is. And Raymond, you're getting the brunt of this right now with some of the heavy rainfall and lightning pushing just north towards Nottingham. That is where we are seeing downpours. Epping, just north of Epping, we are getting poured on. That dark red there indicating the center of this storm, where we're really seeing the heaviest precipitation and perhaps a little bit of hail there too. We'll go back and show you the velocity scans that we've been looking at here. That's been showing the potential for rotation. Not quite as tight of a couplet as what we've been seeing earlier this evening, but certainly still active and present with that potential for rotation here, both away and towards the radar. And that is why there's that tornado possible tag here that you're seeing. I'm trying to show you with this yellow arrow here within this thunderstorm warning, just showing you that yes, there is still rotation within this storm, and this storm is continuing to produce not only the potential rotation, but just very strong winds and the potential for some large hail, in addition to those downpours that we're getting, and very frequent lightning too. Lightning is so dangerous, and you want to make sure you are still inside and taking shelter from this storm. If you are in the path anywhere from Exeter up through Durham, Dover, you want to get indoors. If you know anyone that may be on the coast, perhaps at the beach, get them inside. Make sure they know that, hey, this is headed your way and you're going to need to take shelter from this. Portsmouth, Rye, down to Hampton even. You just want to make sure you're prepared in case, but likely Hampton just south of where this may track. Either way, the Portsmouth area is certainly in the track of this. Same thing in Newmarket, Newington. You want to make sure that you are getting inside and that you are in a safe place, in a sturdy building, as we are seeing, again, strong winds with this storm, the potential for rotation, and the potential, therefore, for a tornado to perhaps form. Not currently a tornado warning, but a severe thunderstorm warning with that tornado possible tag, indicating that, yes, there is still some rotation here, and you can see it pretty clearly with these bright colors next to each other just outside of Raymond now. This is what we've been watching, where that rotation has been taking place. A look from Manchester and the webcam just showing the gray sky. We were perhaps earlier seeing a little bit of the lowering that you can get with tornado formation in these severe storms with the wall cloud. Not quite seeing that there. Of course, the storm is now moved out of the Manchester area. I'll bring back the reflectivity, which is showing where the rain currently is and where the storm currently is. And you can see that Manchester, the worst of it is now over. Raymond, you are now moving out of this storm, but Nottingham, you're still on the northern fringes of this. Durham, Newfields, you're right in this now. This is moving towards you, and so anyone in those areas, you need to be taking shelter, getting inside. Newmarket, you are just about to get hit by the heaviest part of this storm. Epping, you're getting some heavy rain now, just clipping you to the north, and perhaps some of that wind as well. So the last radar scan just came in. We'll go ahead, change back the velocity scan, and if you notice the warning box itself, that orange box, the warning was clipped back just a little bit here too, now that the threat has moved out of the area just to the west of Raymond. The warning now centered from Nottingham to Kingston over to the seacoast, Rye, Portsmouth, up through Durham. You're all still included in this severe thunderstorm warning. So this rotation continues within this thunderstorm. Not presently a tornado warning, but there is still rotation there and still very strong winds there as well. So if we bring back the reflectivity scan here, I'll be able to show you where the core of this is. I mean, these dark purples really indicating not only torrential rain, but the potential for perhaps a hail core still happening here too. We had some reports of hail over 1.5 inches in size back towards Chesterfield and spots a little bit further west where this storm really first kind of got going before it tracked its way eastward across southern parts of the state. We'll go ahead and put this in motion, zoom back out so you can see the direction that this is moving. Slightly due northeastward a little bit, but mostly an eastern direction. So Portsmouth, you are going to be seeing the brunt of this here shortly. Dover, you're going to get clipped you're just north of the strongest part of this storm. Now, we did get one storm report in from the Manchester area too, of someone that supposedly saw a funnel cloud driving on 93. So we'll have to see, you know, what comes of that. But this was pushing through the Queen City and moving straight through, you know, downtown. And so in these populated areas, it can be really hard to see what's coming. Sometimes you're blocked by trees or buildings, your view isn't that great. And it can, if you're not prepared, it can catch you off guard. And so that's why we've been staying with you. We want to make sure that you are safe and that you are able to get this message and know that you need to be in the lowest interior part of your home when we get tornado warnings or any severe thunderstorm that comes through that is capable of causing some damages. And some really interesting video coming in out of the Dublin area. We were shown some video earlier that did show what looked like some rotation or at least a funnel cloud perhaps coming down out of the clouds. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out as we look back. And yeah, it does look like there you can make out some sort of rotation there in the Dublin area where we did have that tornado warning in place. But for right now, no tornado warning, but we do have a severe thunderstorm warning that tag tornado possible. Go ahead and pause this. And Newfields, you're getting in on some very heavy rainfall now, perhaps a little bit of hail. Newmarket, Durham, you're getting into the brunt of this as well. Epping, you're starting to see this move away. And Nottingham also starting to see this move away. We'll bring back that velocity scan so you can see where any potential rotation may be. And you can see that it really has started to break apart a little bit, that rotation signature, not quite as clear as what we were seeing earlier, which is a good thing. It means that perhaps the storm is weakening a little bit, which is what we want to see. But for now, we still have this severe thunderstorm warning. Again, folks at the coast now need to take caution and make sure you can get to a safe place. We'll bring back meteorologist Mike Haddad for a little bit more on what we're tracking and also what else is happening across the area, because there are some storms in other parts of the state, and it looks like perhaps up north there, Mike, there may be a warning there too or somewhere nearby.
Right, in Great Northwoods, Jackie, exactly. A new warning just issued in the last few moments. Just an update again on the warnings that are currently up for the eastern part of Rockingham County, southern Stratford, southern parts of York County and Maine until 7:15. The greatest threat from this storm will come in between now and 7 o'clock in the form of torrential rain, damaging winds, possibly hail, and notice all of the lightning coming in with this particular storm. All of these purples here indicating a potential now for some hail. I'm going to try to paint another hail tracker on this because it just looks like it's intensified even more in the last few minutes. And you can see that right in here, right over Epping. So crossing, as mentioned a short time ago, right over exit 7, Route 125 traveling up towards Route 4 in right around 101. So at that junction of 125 and Route 101, again, that's exit 7 heading out towards the seacoast or heading back from the coast to the Queen City. This is what we have for an estimate on some hail coming in with an estimate of anywhere from around 3/4 of an inch to an inch in diameter. So this is an estimate close to 1 inch. That means business. You don't want to be hit by this, the core of this particular thunderstorm. As a matter of fact, the hail core with it is even a bit more impressive than the rotation. But there's still that couplet indicating a possibility of some rotation. All of the reds, these bright reds, are clearly an indication of motion that moves away from the radar. And again, keep in mind, you notice the radar scan every so often comes whipping around here. It's coming in from southern parts of the Bay State, so right around southern Mass. I'll show you where it is. That's why you never know the exact wind speed, because we're actually getting that couplet dictated and painted out from this radar site way down here. It's amazing what Doppler radar can do, right? Looking right into the cloud cover. There is one in Gray, Maine, similar couplet is there, different colors, so we can pull that one up as well. This is the one out of Gray. And in that case, you have to keep in mind that the brighter green here and even the blue indicates motion towards the radar up in Gray, Maine. In the red, indicating motion away. So there's still that rotation in and around the area around Newfields, and just moving east now of that exit 7 area in Epping in Route 125. Farther to the north, just talked about this. Jackie mentioned one other warning. There is one for the Great North Woods. Right now, that's this one centered around Berlin. And this one also has the potential for rotation till 7:15. These storms, why so much happening? All the ingredients have been there today, including a lot of low-level moisture. The humidity has been way up there all day long, courtesy of the rain last night and this morning. And we saw enough sun to boost our temperatures. So we had the juice in the atmosphere for sure. That clearly, with enough warmth, rises into the atmosphere. And then the wind speed changes as you go up into the cloud. From one direction changes to another direction, and the speed changes as well. That allows the twisting motion as the air rises into the cloud deck, and enough of that is put together today for some rotation potential out of this storm up in parts of the Great North Woods, just to the east of Lancaster. I'll try to get a, okay, it's there. There's definitely a couplet. It's not super well defined, but a little bit more broad than the one that we've seen a little bit farther to the south. But here we go with our motion. Again, green. Keep in mind this is out of the Gray radar site. Moving in this direction. Kilkenny, moving in that direction. So there's your rotation notch right around in here, just northeast of downtown in Jefferson, moving off to the east at about 30 miles per hour or so. I don't have the exact motion on this, but it's roughly in that 30-35 range. So we'll put a little tracker on this one and carry you right through Berlin. Keep in mind, if this holds together, again, it's always a function of does it hold together. Berlin, you're in on this in the next 10-15 minutes or so, probably even a little bit less than that. You're getting in on the rain already, but the potential for rotation would be in about another 5, 6, 7 minutes from now. And also moving in then to western Maine by about 7:15. So that's why the warning is up for northern New Hampshire until 7:15 in the evening. So that's that storm in northern New Hampshire. There's actually a lot more back to our west. The tornado watch is up for the state until 8:15 or 8 o'clock this evening. We're at 6:37. And here's a reason why. There's one more cluster of downpours and storms that has to move through in the next hour and a half to 2 hours. So we can't rule out 1 or 2 more severe storms. Now, typically, when storms barrel on through, they stabilize the atmosphere a little bit, and the successive storms, the ones that follow suit, aren't nearly as strong. But there's so much coming together, a lot of the ingredients to support rotation for today, that we can't rule out another severe warning coming on up. But again, those are the 2 warnings that we currently have, one along the seacoast. And again, we'll zoom back in and show you, again, that potential for some hail and large hail around Durham and right along Route 101, traveling over towards Portsmouth. This storm has had a history of producing some funnels. Whether or not they've officially touched the ground, Don't have confirmation of that just yet. If we receive reports of damage, then in that case, we will have the National Weather Service. We won't have them. They'll do it on their own. We'll venture out to track any potential damage and verify whether or not a tornado reached the ground. And that's always dictated by the way the debris or the damage is kind of set, the pattern of that damage. If it's more all in one direction, it's deemed straight line winds. Of course, if there's some twisted motion, the debris in different directions, then that indicates some kind of rotation. And there was clearly rotation in the last hour and a half to 2 hours. I think we went on the air maybe about 2 hours ago, or just a little bit short of that time. And this storm has been very impressive, holding together with that rotation possibility, with more storms back to our west. And again, it's going to be active. If you've seen a storm come through already, don't let your guard down, because the possibility is there that we could see another strong storm in the next couple of hours. But right now, you could see the brighter green, kind of almost indicating more of a signature of motion. It's a little bit tough because the true core would be a little bit more to the east of that, but we'll show you again what we're tracking. The green indicates motion. Again, this is up towards this direction. If we have the gray radar sight on here, right in here, and the red indicates motion that is away. It's a pretty well defined notch still showing up here right around Newfields and right over Stratham, moving off to the east, impacting the coast. So I'll just close out one more time with the storm tracker on this, because a lot of you want to know how fast this thing is moving. It's about 35, 40 miles per hour, even a little bit faster than the motion I have here. Kind of ran out of distance on this map, but it gives you an idea that within the next few minutes or so, those in Newington, Great Bay already seeing this, Portsmouth, Newcastle, all seek shelter as the storm moves on in your direction. We'll bring back in meteorologist Jacqueline Thomas, talk a little bit more about this very stormy weather out there today, Jackie.
Yeah, very active day for sure, Mike. We've been talking about this for hours here as far as the potential threats that we were seeing with the setup in our atmosphere today. That tornado watch that's been in effect and continues until 8 o'clock this evening, meaning that the atmosphere is just ripe and primed for the formation of tornadoes and for rotation to occur. We also want to just bring back a quick look at that storm to our north, that tag, tornado possible, also with that severe thunderstorm that is tracking just towards Berlin right now, south of Milan. And we'll zoom in here and also show the potential for any kind of rotation. And you can see that it's not quite as strong of a signature as what we had seen with the storm to the south. And even just a few moments ago, this particular storm was showing just a little bit more of a tighter rotation signature than what we're seeing here momentarily. But there are still some weak signs of rotation within this cell up north. And as we head further south, I'm changing different radars here, and it looks like the radar out of Gray, Maine is definitely the clearest for that particular storm. But we'll go back to the storm to the south, because this is where you can still see some of that rotation even as this approaches the coast now. And we've been tracking this storm all the way back through Keene and the Cheshire County area, Dublin, where we first had that tornado warning, and how this storm has tracked all across southern New Hampshire. You can see some of the rotational signature here. If I bring up the Boston radar, you can maybe see it just a little bit clearer. The motion that we are watching here indicating movement towards the radar, movement away from the radar. So definitely still some motion happening within this thunderstorm. But this is heading towards the coast. It's moving eastward. Newmarket, Newfields now getting on the outer edge of this. This is continuing to push out of those areas. Durham, you're just to the north of where we've been seeing some of the rotation. But Portsmouth and Rye, you are now in the path of where this storm could be rotating a little bit and where some of the strongest winds may be with this storm. So you want to make sure that you are also getting into a safe place if you are in those areas along Route 1, Portsmouth, Rye. This is headed your way. If we move this over just a little bit too, I can make a track for you here. This is moving in the eastward direction. This warning, this severe thunderstorm warning, goes until 7:15. 15, but if this moves offshore, it will be expired, as this will no longer pose a threat. But this is going to be moving to the east. So let me go ahead and draw this for you, and we'll try to put it on the center of the storm, and I'll bring back the radar here so you can kind of see where that is. But this is generally moving in this direction, and it's moving about 50 miles an hour, running out of room. But Portsmouth, it'll be to you within these next several minutes here, 6:43. So it's saying Portsmouth, the core of this storm will likely be over you by 6:57, and then it'll be pushing offshore. So this is continuing to move its way out of the area, which is great news. But until then, it is still packing a punch. We still have the potential for some hail with this storm, as Mike was talking about. Some of that hail pretty impressive, and we can go ahead and look at this here, some of the hail tracks just over these last couple of hours here, how this has kind of come in and moved in. And at one point, if we pause this here, we were looking at hail size well over an inch. I believe almost up to 2 inches if we can get on this bright spot here. Yeah, hail size 1.8. So that is very impressive hail that this storm has a history of producing. We also want to take Mike Cronin, who is now on the phone with us here. I know Mike was up in Loudon and up at the racetrack earlier today. That race did have a rain delay. So we'll see what Mike has to say now. We'll send things over to the anchors.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. Yeah, we have Mike Cronin on the phone right now. He's up in Loudon for race weekend at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Now, Mike, what is the latest update? I know that there was a delay.
Absolutely, Troy. So good news here from Loudon. They have just started to fire up the engines. It sounds like we are moments away from the race restarting. We are at the USA Today 301 NASCAR Cup Series race, the only one in New England. We've been in a delay since about 4:30 this afternoon. The race started about a half hour earlier than usual. They moved it up to try to get this race in. Started to rain, so they delayed the race with 82 laps to go. And so for the last about a little over 2 hours, we've just been waiting. The rain was unbelievable here. Heavy rain. We had lightning and thunder. Message went out on the board for all the fans to seek shelter, so they went under the stands for quite a while, and we just waited for the severe weather to pass. So the good news is now that it looks like there's a clearing. They're going to have enough time to get the remainder of this race in, 82 laps to go. And there's going to be a little bit of history tonight at the Speedway, it seems. They're going to be racing with wet weather tires. We've never seen a race finish in NASCAR with these specific tires. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. And in fact, some of the drivers were just talking about, excitement to race on these tires, but also not entirely knowing what it's going to look like because they've never raced in an actual Cup Series race for this length of time. So we're going to see how this plays out. Tyler Reddick is currently in the lead with 82 laps to go. So there is still a considerable amount of time for other drivers to win this race. So eagerly awaiting them to get started. But I just heard them fire up their engines. So we're going to get underway here pretty soon, guys.
And Mike, you mentioned the crowd. We know thousands of people were there. Did people try to take cover? Were people leaving? What happened with that?
Well, when the rain started, a lot of fans hung around in the stands to just see how the weather was going to play out. And then we saw lightning in the distance. We heard the thunder. And that was kind of a tell for fans to take cover. So most of them left the stands and went under the grandstands. And then shortly after that, a message went out over the board advising everybody to seek shelter as there was severe weather nearby. So, for almost 2 hours, fans have been either under the stands or just, taking shelter. I was actually in a garage, myself and photographer, truck operator, along with some of the leadership from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We're also in the garage with Loudon the Lobster, which, of course, is given to whoever wins this race today. So everyone's just been in kind of a holding pattern, just hoping that this race would restart. And it looks like we are going to restart here, and we're going to have a finish to this race tonight.
And Mike, real quick, just before we let you go, I mean, there were 38 100 campers right outside of New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Do you know exactly where they went to shelter? Because I can't imagine that just going to your camper is a very safe place, just in case, you know, a tornado was going through. I know that there was just severe rain and thunderstorm warnings.
Yeah, I'm really not sure, Troy. I can speak to the fans that I saw in the stands. I mean, you have to imagine most of the fans who were in their campers were among those in the stands today. But certainly there's a large amount of fans who watched the race from the other side of the track, kind of on the grass, which is where the campers are. So in terms of those folks, I'm not sure if they went into their campers or if they went to get shelter elsewhere. But by and large, it seems like everybody was heeding the warning of officials and track here to seek shelter once the severe weather moved in.
All right, Mike, glad that went relatively smoothly out there in Loudon. Thank you for that. And just, we'll send it back to Mike, but just a few reminders. Mike and Jackie have been so great about informing our audience, but just the safest place that you can be is inside, right, Mike?
Absolutely. It's inside, and it's low and inside. Basically, when you mention inside, Ariel, you're talking about interior part of your home, because you want to just put as many walls between you and the outside as you possibly can. So ideally, it's a basement. Get down low and get in the interior part of the basement. Don't go near any windows that may be looking kind of up towards the first floor. Just want to get away from any of that, and also just try to get, again, low and inside. If somehow you're in an apartment building and you get another warning, and we'll probably have more throughout the summer, maybe even another one in the next couple of hours, see if you can get down to the lowest floor in that apartment building. Look at the rain coming down. It is torrential downpours, just a gully watcher here in Portsmouth, all the way right along Route 95 up the Spalding Turnpike, and that rain is just torrential in nature. This is a look at the hail estimates coming in, and at the current time, not as impressive as it was a short time ago. So right now we have a general hail size of about, 0.8, close to an inch. That alone is big, but just short time ago, we had a couple of scans that showed the hail size of over 1.5 inches. That is just tremendous hail that can do damage. In terms of the radar, this is a look at the scan right now coming in out of Gray, Maine. There's still some hints of rotation. Again, this is not a tornado warning. It's a severe thunderstorm warning with the potential for rotation. And the green indicates motion towards the radar site, and the bright kind of neon green and blue there, all towards the radar. So this is intense wind moving in this direction, and the wind's a little bit weaker moving in that direction. So right in here, right around Portsmouth downtown, this is where we could see a funnel not locked in that it would be reaching the ground. But again, this is where it would likely be tracking right over towards the coastline and moving offshore within the next hour, another 15 or 20 minutes or so. We also have one more warning currently up in parts of the Great North Woods. That includes places around Berlin. Right now, the tracker on that one, these storms are racing, by the way, 40, 45, even around 50 miles per hour. They are cruising through the state. And at this point in time, there's not enough of a rotation to deem this as a severe or as a tornado warning. But there's some subtle rotation trying to come together here. But again, the signature not as well defined as would normally be the case in order to produce or trigger a tornado warning. So that's basically what we have. In addition to that, I just want to let you know not to let your guard down, because there's all of this action coming in out of southern Vermont. No warnings currently up right now, thankfully. No rotation detected on radar, but as these storms build in across the Upper Valley and the Monadnock region and eventually move into central parts of the state, you could see another thunderstorm with a lot of heavy rain. Not out of the question. Tough to call whether or not damaging winds will be factored in here as well, but definitely something to keep in mind going forward between now and the mid part of the evening. The tornado watch expires at 8 o'clock. Whether or not that'll be extended through 8:30 or 9, tough to call, because I think after this cluster of storms clears on through, anything riding in on the backside will be much, much weaker, and there's really not a whole lot showing up there in that part of New England, or that part of the Northeast rather. The storms are much weaker here in upstate New York. But again, there's still a lot of action on the map. The severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect right along the coastline for about another 15 to 20 minutes or so. I would say in about another 10 minutes, the threat of damaging winds is gone. And then we also have that strong to severe storm in parts of the Great North Woods that we've been talking about as well, that will tend to linger on and off for the next 15, 20 minutes. And then quickly after that, it's gone into the western part of Maine. Again, these storms are racing, and they have been today, to the east at about 40 to 45, even near 50 miles per hour. We're going to send it back over to Ariel in Troy.
Yeah, we have our Amani Fleming on the phone now. Amani is in Manchester. Amani, you have been driving around the area. What was that drive like? Have you seen anything on the roads?
Yeah, hi, Ariel, Troy. Well, right now, like you said, we're in Manchester. We took Route 3 leaving the Concord area, and we got right onto I-93 South. We are safe right now. We're doing totally fine, totally okay. Not seeing anything out of the ordinary at this point, just aside from some really cloudy and gray skies. So my photographer, Siobhan, and I were listening into Mike and Jackie explaining the various warnings and watches, trying to see if we noticed anything severe in our area in real time. But the worst of this weather didn't seem to actually make it our way. In Concord, the rain and the wind weren't that dangerous or at a severe level, at least from what we saw. The rain wasn't and isn't intense at this point. I'd say it's drizzling outside where we are right now, but we definitely did hit some traffic. Probably a mix of the weather and the road conditions combined with the extra cars on the road, probably from NASCAR, was causing that flight delay we were sitting through on I-93. But we did hear some thunder. We actually saw a lightning strike while we were pulled over on the side of the road off of Route 106. But again, right now, things not too out of the ordinary, nothing severe in our area. Traffic not too bad, just probably some extra cars on the road. I just want to remind everybody to be safe out there, and we'll do the same. I think I'll send it back over to the studio.
Yeah, Amani, thank you so much. It's always good to hear that nothing's out of the ordinary right now, because obviously there is a lot of severe weather going on. So we might be checking it back in with Imani throughout the day. So Imani, if you can still hear us, please stay safe, and whoever your photographer is too. And hopefully the road conditions are doing okay right now. But we're going to send things back to Chief Meteorologist Mike Haddad with just more updates on where this severe thunderstorm is going right now.
Yeah, right now it's racing, Troy and Ariel, off to the east. As a matter of fact, about to clear the coast in the next 5 or 10 minutes, and we could say see you later to this thing, because it's overstayed its welcome and then some. It's been around for 2 hours, tracking across the entire southern part of the state from around Keene over to Portsmouth. So it took that long to move through. However, that time was about 2+ hours. And keep in mind, moving 30, 40, even 50 miles per hour at times. That's why it has actually moved to this location by around 7 o'clock this evening. And a lot of lightning showing up still right along the 95 corridor, right over the Piscataqua River as it tracks to the east. 35, 40 miles per hour earlier in the afternoon or late afternoon, and now trucking at 45 to 50 miles per hour with a core of hail, not as impressive as it was a short time ago. You can see the real bright pinks back in here. That's when the core of the hail was the most intense. Now it's more of a smaller hail situation with intense rain, lightning, and on the leading edge, a potential for some wind gusts of 30 to 40, even 50 miles per hour. Now, if there's any rotation left over from this particular cell, well, it would be sitting back to the east, right over Portsmouth. So this is a view of the velocity scans once again from Gray, Maine. And this bright green indicates motion up towards the radar site and right around Newcastle, pressing down to the south. So if we were to see any rotation, it would be right in here, and again, moving offshore in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Now, in addition to that one, there's another storm to the north triggering a severe thunderstorm warning, or it did, and it's still there, right around Berlin until 7:15. So that's this system around Berlin, all the way through Success. And this one showed a little sign of rotation in the last 5 or 10 minutes, but in the last few, the rotation not as well defined. But having said that, still packing a punch with a lot of rain. You notice one thing missing is lightning. So kind of an odd feature here where you just don't have a lot of lightning and you definitely don't have a lot of large hail with this one. The main threat is for torrential downpours and some gusty winds, possibly rotating, but again, not all that impressive. So that's the storm. We're going to kind of recap here and wrap up our coverage shortly, but just a quick recap on the storm exiting the coast in the next few minutes. You're seeking shelter. There's no additional action needed for that part of the state in the next 15, 20 minutes. As again, if you're in it, you're in it. And if you're not in it, it's gone. So that's the good news with that cell. And the one to the north is going to be in western Maine in the next few moments. There are still numerous downpours and some lightning from the Mount Washington Valley into the heart of the Lakes region and back into southern parts of Vermont. So that's basically been the story. We'll send it back over to Jackie for just a quick moment, quick recap on this, and then we'll tend to wrap up programming shortly. Jackie?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I mean, we've been tracking this since it first moved into New Hampshire in Cheshire County and prompted that first tornado warning. But as Mike mentioned, this is now moving offshore. You can see where the rotation is pushing out of Portsmouth now and out over the water. So perhaps not out of the question, there may be a water spout sighting out of this if this rotation can really tighten up a little bit. But overall, the biggest threat has now diminished, which is good news. This continues to move away, even though that warning is still up for a little bit, and we have that second warning up north. But we will wrap things up here, send things back to the desk with Ariel and Troy.
Jackie and Mike, thank you so much. We can't thank you enough. Being on air for over 2 hours, giving everybody the weather coverage.
Absolutely. We will be back at 7:30 with an update, but for now we will sign off. Thanks for being with us.